All right, so officially welcome, because I forgot to hit the recording button, to the question and answer session. This unique thing that I'm doing for the Captain's Table podcast now, where I'm calling it sort of the state of the community or year end or quarter end. I want to do this every quarter, where we just do question and answer sessions, where I maybe bring a guest on, but in the future I want to do things like Collins, where we just sort of take questions from the chat about Star Citizen in general and just sort of vibe and be more casual in conversations about things. Nothing really specifically, question, but maybe some more general things like how is Star Citizen doing right now, or the things that are on the questions that are on the mind of the community at the moment of the recording. So there's no like theme to it. It's just what people are thinking about. I'm joined by Axis0096. Where can they find you again, Axis0096?
Yes, sir. The name you see right here is my YouTube channel domain. And then you have lowercase Axis0096 for Twitch, A096 for, I believe, Kick, and then a variation of the lowercase one for my Rumble account. So I'm pretty much everywhere.
Awesome. All right, so let's take some of these questions. We've been streaming for a little bit, so we do have a lot of questions still here. The first question is from Jaded Cynic, who asks, do you think CIG is ahead of schedule or behind or on track with what they hoped for to accomplish in 2024? According to their plans, expectations, etc. at the beginning of the year. Oh, they're definitely behind. They're 6 months behind. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They sort of screwed up because Jared went up there and said, we're shooting for a 4.0 release in summer of 2024 Q3.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're at least a quarter, if not 2 quarters behind. They're 6 months behind, a quarter behind technically. And even then, half of the things they wanted to be, they wanted it in 4.0 are not in 4.0. The patch has been gutted. And it was the things that was not vital to the patch, in the sense that 4.0 had to have server meshing and pyro, but it was definitely the things that has the flavor of the patch. Things like engineering and the pyro star going nova, or its bursts, fire, all of the things that were supposed to give pyro more flavor than just red Stanton. That's just what it is. What do you think, Axis?
Honestly, all of the stuff you mentioned will more than likely translate into at least one X patch, like a 4.1 or a 4.2, at the maximum.
Yeah.
Because there was a stunningly huge category loss, a large ledger basically of stuff below what we got in 4.0. So I wouldn't be too surprised if it's pretty much dumped into at least 2 other patches.
Could be. It's important to remember that a lot of those things that we saw as well were basically just engineering. Like Pyro's flare, we saw it working in the preview. The reason why it wouldn't have been in 4.0 is because it's probably interacts with engineering. So without engineering, it doesn't make sense to put it in there.
They probably want to cook it a little longer so everything works together cohesively.
Exactly. And they even said that the reason why they pulled it was because they didn't have enough time to test it. So that's the big thing, is they just didn't have enough time to test all of the features of 4.0. So it is how it is. But so I don't think it's going to be too far beyond, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up in a preview patch and gets kicked down the line a little bit more because of CIG's new sort of motive, their new directive that they've been trying to do, which from the letter from the chairman a couple weeks ago specifically was, hey, we want to emphasize playability rather than technology. That is what they kind of talked about. So now, I do disagree with the idea that engineering was the game. Like, I know a lot of people are like, well, I really want to do engineering, which is, I'm sure many people do, and that is their gameplay. But I also don't think that engineering is that much of a gameplay addition. It's just adding the engineering. Not all the ships are going to have engineering properly implemented when it first releases. Not every ship is going to have fire implemented when it first releases. Even with this slip, I doubt they're going to do that. And there's no like features that are like around engineering, except for combat and some environmental hazards. A lot of the nuance of engineering isn't going to be put in for probably a year plus. So I don't think it was like, oh well, now that the heart of the patch has been removed. It's more like you delayed a version 1 of engineering.
Yeah.
So,
we're more likely to get another solar system before all of engineering's end.
Almost 100%. All right. Next question comes from Escape, who asks, what is your favorite BattleTech mech in each of the 4 main weight classes? Do you know a lot of BattleTech? I know you're more of a Gundam fan, so
Really?
okay. I'll do the BattleTech then. My favorite light mech is a Commando. The medium mech is a Hunchback. Large is my blind spot. I don't know a lot of larges. I guess Dragon, maybe. Maybe Orion. I don't like a lot of larges. And in Assault, it would be the King Crab. But, just because crap.
Inch pinch.
Well, the cool thing about the crab is, what is it? In Wing, the 2 aquatic, in Gundam Wing, the 2 aquatic mechs from the Earth Sphere. Pisces and Cancer, I think is what they were.
Pisces and the Cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Cancer was the one that was like the crab. It was like, it had like 2 like arms and it was like, it's basically that, only the claws, when they open up, they have guns in them. So the claws open up with like AC-20s inside of them, like the huge things. So.
Right.
All right. Escape then asks, what weapon system would you mount on an ATLS? In game. It has to be in game now, currently.
In game. Well, the Atlas is technically a Titan suit variant.
Yes.
So let's think. What kind of weapons do we have? It would be a size 1. So not
Probably.
very big, but big for a human mounted weapon. So let's see. Distortion repeater, or do they have any Gatling guns at that size?
Yeah.
No.
The Yellow Jacket, I think is what it's called.
Yellow Jacket. Oh, what about the Kruger gun? If they made like
the Tiger Shrike, I think it's still a size 2, though.
Oh, that'd be on its back, like a over the shoulder type.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
A ballistic cannon would be good. I also think a railgun would be cool. So like, or the scatter gun, like a size 1 scatter gun would be cool. Just like
that would basically be perfect. Yeah.
Then again, when it comes to mech stuff, I tend to want to get within melee range of something. So a scatter gun would make more sense because I can just get up close and fire, and then if they're still alive, hit them with the fists.
I'd also hope they give us some hand weapons too.
Oh yeah,
like a knife or maybe like a dagger or something.
Yeah, I mean, let's go CIG. Come on, just do a beam weapon. Everyone wants a beam saber.
Please.
Just a legally distinct lightsaber, please. And that would be great for a mech, because it would be a good like a callback to Gundam and other stuff like that. So, or a power sword, or like a heat sword, something like that. So,
heat saber. There you are. Yeah, or heat hawk, whatever the Zaku uses.
It says a heat hawk is what the Zaku uses. So.
Yeah.
So I'm saying wrist-mounted plasma blade. Yeah, go for some Omni tool with the Mass Effect stuff. So,
I almost also want to say the Ripper gun from Gears of War.
Oh yeah. Oh, and someone else is bringing up an idea of like railgun on one shoulder and missile pack on the other. Go with the classic Tau, because like a crisis suit is similar to a Titan suit, so I think they're very similar in terms of design and size from 40K. And you go the classic fire knife, which is a plasma gun and a missile launcher. So like having like some missiles on the shoulder, and then a plasma rifle on the other, or like in Star Citizen's case would be like a plasma, like probably like an energy plasma weapon. But yeah.
That setup would also be very attractive if these Titan suits not only had modules, but hard points. You could hard lock weapon stuff like at an option screen. I mean,
that would be nice.
The Titan suits are basically armor, and you can modify armor with attributes in the upcoming modification. So why not Titan suits with where your hardpoint locations are and power inputs and stuff? So the game really has limitless possibility.
I will also say that the thing that happens a lot with the question that comes up a lot, because there's a lot more of these questions coming through, but there's a lot of question comes up a lot of like, if there is a Titan suit that players can use, why would anyone ever use not a non-Titan suit? And the answer is twofold. Right. Number one, size. Titan suits are huge. We've seen an Atlas. Can you get an Atlas inside of an elevator? Can you imagine trying to walk something the size of an Atlas down the corridors of a contested zone? Like, you're just gonna get destroyed, especially by anyone with like anti-armor weapons. The other thing is power and heat, because power will eventually be consumed when engineering comes in, and heat buildup is going to be a thing. So there will be a time limit on how long you can use a Titan suit compared to regular armor. So,
right.
Yeah, I also like the idea of hard points. So being able to have separate hard points on the exterior for various weapon mounts would be a good idea.
Exactly.
All right. Del Ener asks, okay, vibe check. Should the Star Citizen community be concerned with comments by Rich Tire that CIG wants to be space rust, or is this a nothing burger? Okay, so for those who don't know, there was a popular Sea of Thieves streamer who came on to play with Burks, with Captain Burks, who was doing some crazy stuff, and Rich Tire came on, who's the game director, who said this is effectively space rust. Was it Rich Tire? It might have been Kwaku, who's Elliot. But one of the developers said this is space rust. And the second I saw that, then I knew like the community is going to get mad with that comment. And I think the comment was mentioned more in terms of Pyro. Like Star Citizen is not space rust. Pyro is space rust, which I don't think anyone disagrees with. So, yeah.
That can be extended also to other low security or no security systems.
Yeah.
Null, what are some other ones? Nyx, upcoming. Maybe not so much Nyx because it actually has a large faction that controls most of it, but definitely non-UEE systems.
Yeah.
And alien faction systems. So,
yeah. I don't, because Rust, the big thing about Rust is that a lot of people are attracted to isn't just the chaos, but it's also the base builds. It's the freedom that Rust gives you. As somebody who is an avid survival game player, who is the reason I am the problem. If you see a survival game like that pops up, I probably bought it. I've probably played it, especially if it's first person or third person. So I am the problem, but even I am like, the thing about Rust that feels like Rust with Star Citizen, especially with Pyro, is the fact that there's no laws. There's no rules. Yeah. But I think that will eventually be curbed a little bit because there needs to be some protections, because it's still got to have some elements that make it unique to Star Citizen. Because if you wanted to make Space Rust, then it would just been Space Rust. Star Citizen is Space Rust, so...
I want to say some of these factions might have their own idea of policing their territory.
For sure.
So that if you break their own code, you might end up in like some very unsafe jails.
Or so not even jails, they'll just kill you.
Or if they find you valuable, you put in a work crew and be told, hey, you work this long, or
So I think the comparison to Rust by Rich Tire is because apparently it was Elliot saying that Rich Tire was calling it Space Rust. I think the comparison is more in that the freedom. I think that's what Rich Tire was more focusing on, is that you have the freedom. You can steal somebody's, if you are good enough, you can steal somebody's executive F7A Mark II and make off with it like a bandit. And like there's no game rules that's preventing you from doing that. But that's also like, that describes like Minecraft and DayZ and so many other sort of survival-esque games that are out there that lets you do those sorts of things. So, but yeah. All right, next question comes from. So the answer is, I think for both of us, is it's a nothing burger. I think it's just more of a.
Yeah.
It's requires interpretation in terms of what it was meaning. As always, CIG's inelegant in its communications.
Yeah.
Escape 907 asks, when do you think will be the next instance of Siege of Orison? I think 4.1. March, April. I think Siege of Orison's coming out then. When do you think?
Maybe. I mean, they're trying to keep the community engaged. So, of course, they're going to have something on rotation.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is Siege of Orison was built specifically with server meshing in mind. Elliot's talked about it multiple times because it was his baby. That he says, I can't wait until there's an actual dedicated server just for Siege of Orison.
It's going to be different.
Yeah.
A lot different. A lot of orgs, I predict, are going to use it as a AI or player versus player training simulator, because from what we know of, the Pyro AI are so much different from the Stanton AI we currently have.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of people who say Stanton's AI has been updated too. Someone mentioned how they went to a bunker. They got pushed down. They had to take cover while they were reloading. And by the time they got reloading, fixed a reloading bug and pulled back out, they saw like 4 AI pushing them instantly, which they wouldn't have done so in the past. So I think in general, just the boons that 4.0 gives to server meshing is going to make
it's just a lot.
Yeah, it's going to make a lot of AI much better. And I think if CIG, this is crazy talk on my end. CIG has not mentioned this at all, but I wouldn't be surprised if CIG uses Siege of Orison to test out instanced servers. So for those who don't know, we already have instancing in game. It works with the hangars, but I believe that a lot of events are going to be instanced in the sense that there will be a max cap for that server. So like say 200, 300 people. Once you get in that server, it will, once it reaches that cap, it will shut off that instance and be like, nobody else can come in. So if the 251st person comes in, that person gets a brand new server with nobody in it except for them to do that event. And then more people will show up. So that way, if the entire server shows up to the event, or if the entire shard shows up to the event, it'll have just stacked servers rather than just individual, which will allow for better performance and also, again, because it limits the number of people, and it will allow for less trolling and that sort of thing.
Right.
So, and I think that's what they've said in the past, that they want to, at least at CitizenCon, they want to do events which are instanced in the future. So I wouldn't be surprised if Siege of Orison is A, its own dedicated server, B, a instant server for people to enjoy. Yeah. What do you think?
I think you're dead on the money, because stuff like this is also going to be used for the what is that stuff they were talking about, the sewers for art?
Oh yeah,
they're going to have some way to prove that. And it's similar,
and that is instanced. So
yeah,
they've talked about.
So this could lead to the improvements for those instance dungeons or whatever they want to call them.
Definitely dungeons,
and definitely not just on ArtCorp.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they have more.
I can imagine it also being 2 types of instance activities. One in enclosed spaces and one out in the open, where you run into instance scenarios. Now, this is me forecasting.
Okay.
But other games do it as well, like Skyrim, where you have instance encounters with characters and monsters and things like that. I mean, why can't Star Citizen do that? You just pick some random place on a planet, and all of a sudden you get attacked out of freaking nowhere. I mean, the Versus, they've said, is a very dangerous place, so completely within the realm of reason.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not immediately, but it is an extension of the same tech.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if CIG plays with a lot of the tech in 2025. 2025 for me at least, seems like it's going to be a lot of here's all the tech we've developed. It's already in place. 4.0 is out. Server meshing's in. Pyro is in. Let's play with what we have. Let's see what we have now and play with it. That's what I got from the Chris Roberts' letter from the chairman is they're going to play with what they have rather than implement new technologies. And they'll still implement new technologies, but they're not going to like rush it out. They're going to be like, yeah, it's not ready for it's. We're going to let it cook a little bit. And we're going to focus on the experience with the game right now. So
it also applies not only on planets but in space.
Yeah.
You could run into an instance fleet battle at some point.
That's what they wanted to do. So yeah, they've talked about that with like instance fleet battles against
Elite already does it, folks. For everyone who knows, there are these zones you jump into in Elite where you choose a side of a conflict to fight it out. Be it, Thargoids, Empire, yada yada.
I don't think you can choose to fight for the Thargoids, but yeah, that's a good example, like a PvE encounter. But yeah, you're right.
I wish we could, but fight for the bugs.
All right. Next question comes from Escape, who asks, do you believe that we will be able to lessen our physical cross-section for stealth? What he's asking is, do you think you can take your current cross-section, which is, your silhouette, and make it different for scanning technology?
That's an interesting one. They did showcase some sort of stealth suit, but they didn't go into much of the details,
For like your for your ship is what he's talking about.
Oh, for your ship. Or for your physical self or your armor?
Like your physical ship. Because like right now, like CS missiles, cross-section missiles, when they fire, they're looking for what your ship looks like. So they basically lock onto your silhouette and then will track your silhouette as it goes through. So the idea being like there are three elements for stealth. There is your heat, your EM, and your cross-section, which is, your heat, your electronic signature, and if you can be seen or not. And so the question is more, could you reduce that silhouette in some way for stealth, making it harder to see you?
I think that would be an engineering question, maybe.
Possibly. I think it's also a question of how the sensors will work in Star Citizen, because I think you will be able to reduce your cross-section if you're near a larger object. But effectively, in my opinion, and from my understanding, cross-section is what can you see? So it's more of a Mark I eyeball situation, an optical appearance. Do I think you're going to have optical camo like stealth? No. CIG has been very firm on that for a long time. They do not want optical stealth in Star Citizen because they don't like that implication.
It opens some questions. I mean, on the one hand, you could hide near a larger ship or something, and and its radar, it already works in game. Hiding in the shadow of the ship.
Yeah, it means
or installation, and it masks your signal.
Yeah, it's harder to pick you up until you get closer. So. All right. Next question comes from Escape, who asks, how much would you enjoy a combined arms game mode in Arena Commander? Battlefield 2955. What you're referencing is Theaters of War. I would love to have one, but I know for a fact that there is a large section of the community who don't want anything to do with AC. They think AC should be dropped as a game mode and shouldn't be supported anymore by Star Citizen, and they should focus solely on the PU, which I disagree with, but I would love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Anytime soon. I think it could happen in 2026, but that's because I've had this long running theory that the multiplayer for Squadron 42 is going to be Arena Commander. Yeah. So when players are playing Squadron and they want to go into multiplayer, they'll have access to Arena Commander, which will be where a lot of the Arena Commander folks will come into, is like play this multiplayer mode, which will then also be connected to Star Citizen. So anybody with Star Citizen has Arena Commander, anyone with Squad 42 has Arena Commander, so they can play the same game modes together, even if they don't have either game. Because all of the early versions of Squadron 42 came with Arena Commander access, and it would be silly not to use that as a multiplayer mode for Squadron 42. But that's more of a conjecture than a reality. But if I'm right, I think the beginning of 2026 we will see the Arena Commander team get a lot of assets and get like a green light to just go crazy with like new game modes and all the sorts of things like that. So, but we'll see. All right. We've got a lot of questions left. So if you're still here, feel free to ask more questions. We've only been going for about 30 minutes. This will be a little bit shorter than our typical content because usually the questions end up being about an hour to an hour and a half. So without the discussion addition for an additional hour, it'll be a little different. But all right, next question comes from Commander Shadowstalker, who asks, what would you say was CIG's biggest step forward and conversely its biggest misstep during 2024? You want to start with this, Axis?
Sure. I'd say its misstep probably would be, I want to say something regarding it feels almost like management was pushing a lot of the development too quickly, and it overloaded a lot of the, stuff getting out on the PTU.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not talking about, upper management, not Chris, but someone up in marketing. To me, it felt like there was a definite push to get stuff out the door before it was cooked enough.
Okay. So
Maybe it's just me.
A pressure to publish kind of thing?
A pressure to publish, and unfortunately, people are human and get sick and overstressed from bosses. So, yeah.
How about what would their biggest step forward be?
The biggest step forward was at least completing the goal of getting it out by the end of the year.
4.0 you're meaning?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it's not live, it is still off to the public always,
Yeah. I think the biggest misstep from CIG was expectation setting. I think they set bad expectations at the beginning of the year. I said at the beginning of this year that CIG came in swaggering. And people said, you mean confident? I mean, no, I said swagger for a reason, because swagger can be good or swagger can be bad. We have to see if that swagger is earned. And quite frankly, CIG did not earn the swagger. They definitely came in swaggering in like they owned the place, and then tripped on a rock and smashed their face into the ground real hard. I don't think this year was as bad as last year with the 318 release, but it definitely was a poor follow-up to 318. We got a lot of good stuff, but without setting, because they set the expectation of the 3.23 coming out with all these things, when half of the patch got gutted, I got people from CIG reached out to me and said it was insulting to them that I said it was gutted. I am not kidding. And the rest of the community agreed because it was gutted, and I kept saying it was gutted. I said I wasn't going to do it again, but now CIG has consistently proven that they will do this. They will put a bunch of things up to get a bunch of people going, wow, look at what's coming out with this patch. And then they cut half of it and move it to another patch. And that was a tactic they used twice this year, which is setting bad expectations. I think that the letter from the chairman seems to indicate that CIG is not going to do that anymore. They're trying to do this, and I applaud them if they are going to shut up. And sometimes the best thing to say is nothing, to set expectations. Just, you can still talk about what you're working on and show off what's coming up, but you just don't say, oh, when does it come out? When it comes out, when it's ready, sort of thing.
Yeah,
that's fine. But and I think the biggest step forward, obviously, is 4.0 before the end of the year. It's not good in terms of like what people hoped it to be. It's not perfect. It's got a lot of issues. But I think it coming out at the end of the year means that CIG going into the next year is going to have a much better cadence of release, at least internally. So
right.
All right. Next question comes from Escape, who asks some other game modes you would like to see in Arena Commander. I'll start with this one since you did the last one. I want to see a Titan suit battle mode.
Oh, yes, please.
Titan suit versus Titan suit. What about you?
Adding to that one, what about a capture the flag scenario where it's you versus, like a I don't know how to describe it. It's like a very hard mode where it's you in a fully armed Titan suit versus a horde of enemies
Okay, that works. Yeah.
coming
Okay.
at you. Not in Titan suits, but like you have to tactically plan out your attack pattern around like a base or an outpost or something, and you have to like slay enemies, right?
Okay, so like
Yeah,
with a horde,
basically King of the Hill, like somebody said.
King of the Hill horde, but I could also see something like an asymmetric mode where
Asymmetric.
you have like 16 players on one side and like 4 on the other, and the 16
Right.
players are given like basic weapons and the 4 are given like tanks or ships or Titan suits or some sort of like big weapon mode where like you have to like those people with the smaller weapons are facing higher odds, but there's more of them and they have more counts.
Survival mode. That's it.
Yeah,
Survival.
like a survival mode where like the people in the 4 people have 1 life and everybody else has ultimate unlimited lives and there's a timer. So they either survive through the wave or through the conflict, or the smaller groups are able to kill off the larger groups, able to kill off the smaller group and win. So I can also see things like infection mode, classic Halo gameplay style, where you have one person who's a zombie and then kills somebody else, and then they are a zombie, and then that kind of stuff.
Aquatic warfare, maybe.
Ooh, I could see that too. It'd be fun, especially with boats and swimming, that sort of thing. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Desert stuff. I mean, there's many environments.
Yeah.
Arena Commander could also is basically going to turn into part of the preview channel. So things like, swimming, hiding in water, things like that.
Different
Parts of
modes,
stealth are going to be added through that.
or different biomes. Yeah.
Yes, different biomes. Oh, capture the swamp.
The Shrek mode. Get off my swamp.
Right. But the worst part of it is you're not the only predator in there. Say you're hunting through the swamp looking for one thing. Well, you have to get through a dangerous swamp with a ton of critters after you. Right?
Yeah. Oh. That's funny. So someone in chat, this is going to be a little bit of a story. For those who don't know, I've been playing Star Citizen off stream and not for content a lot for 4.0, which is unique for me. I tend to don't. And so I was talking in chat because I was doing a smuggling run, and there was a bunch of people talking in chat at the time, were like complaining at each other, talking about PvP stuff. I was just listening in. The only reason why I actually talked or even saw the chat was because some guy in a Polaris showed up and was flashing his lights at me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna die." And he's like, "Chill, bro. I was just giving you some light." I'm like, "Okay, this is weird, but okay." And so someone recognized me because I spoke up in chat, telling the guy to back off a little bit so I could like reduce, so I could lower down some of the cargo crates where I was doing the smuggling. And someone's recognized me and said, "Oh, I love your streams." And the people who were arguing were screaming about PvP. You're like, "Whoa, I can't believe it. Wait, you're a streamer?" They completely misunderstood the conversation and thought that I was the one complaining because they didn't know I was the streamer, because they didn't reference me. They said, "Oh, I love your streams," not knowing who. So they thought I was complaining about PvP, and I'm just sitting there going, "Popcorn, man. I'm all for this weird drama." And so
popcorn.
yeah. So someone just came in chat and said, "Streamer bro, back off," which is I think one of what the guys said. So
Oh, he's talking to me. It's a bunch of guys from Griefernet that have called me that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what their deal is, but hi guys. Yes, I'm still here. You haven't found me again. Nice to see you.
Oh, I thought it was talking to me about that, because that was the story was someone said streamer bro, back off. I don't know what it is, but all right. Let's move on to the next question. All right. So Trouble Magnet asks, should CIG start addressing common bug symptoms with code to detect when they occur and gracefully work around them instead of just trying to fix all the bugs causing them. Things like detecting if a player is inside of a ship, station, or planetoid, and then returning them to their last valid position if so. I think that's a lot of work for not a lot of payoff. Because you're building a system to basically work around the bugs rather than solve the bugs.
Yeah.
Because like what Trouble Magnet is suggesting is basically, hey, there's a bug in this ship that's going to cause this thing, that's causing this thing to happen. We'll just reset the player to where they were before. And that can work, but I don't think it's a good idea to do something like that at all, honestly. Because the idea is that if the problem exists, they need to fix that problem. So.
Yeah, I think they're kind of alluding to some bug work anyways in 2025. So, yeah. We'll see.
Trouble Magnet also asks, should CIG remove damage when players hit objects or other players except for fall damage? It doesn't seem like body slams are intended for combat mechanic. We have a long history of desync player collision deaths, especially recently. No, because it's twofold. Number one, the reason why we have these collisions is desync, which is a bug, which they need to fix. It's not intended, so they need to fix it. And two, you shouldn't be able to clip into each other. You should bounce off of each other. So it's a hit detection issue as well. That needs to be added to the game to be able to have some sort of like force feedback or force push around when you're doing stuff. Yeah, it's, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. They just need to fix desync, which is a lot more important than turning off, collision. Cause I don't know if collision damage I think collision damage with other players is also involves probably collision damage with objects or fall damage and a lot of other stuff like that. So
I think it kind of is. Sounds like it.
So like that's going to be one of those well-intended thing that's going to cause like a series of consequences where turning off fall damage or turning off ship damage. And so people will be able to do crazy things. So, yeah. All right. Next question to Walter Hack, who asks, how soon in the next year do you think we'll have the transit rework? We kind of really need it. I'll let you answer this one. When do you think we're going to get the transit rework? Because that was one of the things they pulled from 4.0.
That's a really good question. Definitely not first quarter because everyone's going to be returning to work,
Mm-hmm.
If they do it this year, we might see it second or third quarter. And it won't be fourth quarter because, well, yeah. I don't know. It's kind of one of those up in the air questions where it's like, will it happen this year or not?
I don't think it's going to happen. I personally think it's not going to happen at all. I have a crazy theory that CIG has even mentioned that the idea of landing zones comes from a different version of the game, back when Star Citizen was Freelancer 2. And as they're doing things like building bigger cities and wanting to do things like procedural interiors to allow for more people to be going through cities, I think they're going to change how travel works inside those cities. Mm-hmm. So the idea, one of the reasons why I think they cut the idea of doing this rework is that they realize it's going to take them a lot longer and be more intensive. And so the question becomes, do we fix this problem now as it stands? Or do we build something brand new from the scratch as we build out these a bit larger cities? And I think if they haven't done it yet, I do think that they will have that. They will have a discussion where, like, how do we deal with transportation inside cities when the game gets bigger in terms of these cities? And I think that what they'll do is they'll just say we need to completely rethink how transportation works. So,
yeah. Sounds about right.
All right. Next question. Oh, close this off. Next question comes from the Rigsby, who asks, in early Kickstarter documentation, the question, would Star Citizen become an MMO, was answered with a definitive no. Can you explain how Star Citizen currently referred to as an MMO? Because at the time, when they were mentioning MMO, they were referencing it in terms of an MMORPG. And the Kickstarter, what was the context of that was, would it be WoW? And the response was no, we don't want it to be WoW. Because video game terminology is stupid and it makes no sense and it's entirely made up of bullshit. I constantly have to refer back to this, which is, what is a roguelike? Like, how would we define a roguelike? Well, there's a lot of different ways of defining it, but why is it called a roguelike? Because it's based off of a game called Rogue, which very few people outside of the older folks here have probably ever played.
I don't think I have.
I haven't played it. How about a Metroidvania? Yeah. I'm sure plenty of people, like you were talking about this before the channel, before the thing, like the last Metroid game was like the Wii, I want to say.
Prime or Trilogy?
Prime.
Yeah. Metroid Prime 3 was on the Wii in 2007.
Yeah.
And the newest one is now 17-year gap.
Yeah. So like a lot of the ideas of like Metroidvania comes from Metroid and Castlevania. And I don't think we've really had a Metroid or Castlevania new game in many years. So like video game terminology is stupid and weird. So an MMO back in 2012 was effectively a MMORPG, World of Warcraft. And CIG was trying to, at the time, differentiate itself as saying, we're not going to be an MMORPG.
Right. I think the last Metroidvania Castlevania game was on the DS, and that was a long time ago. So
yeah. So, but so as a result, I think the question is more of a, is it is this a situation where CIG was terminology confusion? And the other, Metroid Dread was in 2021. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Technically, Metroid 5.
Metroid
the main
5.
one.
Okay. Was that a Metroidvania side scroller style?
Yes, it was side scrolling from the side view. So like Super Metroid.
Okay.
But very much, yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not much of a Metroid fan, but the point I was making is that the terminology of gaming, like a Soulsborne, for instance, they're often connected to games which are not precise. And so I think it's just an issue of that. The other thing to note is that CIG has changed things. Things have changed in Star Citizen. Famously, food was never supposed to kill you. Now it does. You know, if you didn't eat or drink, you were supposed to just have debuffs, not die. There was never supposed to be a skill system. There will be a skill system in the game. Like lots of things will change as the game goes on. The Star Citizen was used to be called the best damn space sim ever, and they stopped calling it the best damn space sim ever in like 2015. So, yeah. Let's go through. All right. Next question comes from Jock Cop, who asks, due to bringing over Squadron 42 features and the road to 4.0, we had a good feel of where this year was going. Do you think this year is going to be a bit more loose, or will CIG firm it up early? So I'll ask you that question, and I'll step off for a few seconds there, Axis. Do you think CIG is going to give us a roadmap for this year, like what things they want to release this year, or do you think they're going to be kind of quiet about it?
I'm hoping they do. Oh, whoops, I'll wait. Okay. Yeah, I yeah. um, I think definitely we. Oh boy, I've been put on the spot. I'm embarrassed now. But shoot. Um, sure. Sorry. Shoot. Thanks a lot. Favorite gameplay. Actually, exploration and I've actually started doing a lot of mercenary stuff. Oh, you're funny, Draugr. Chad is harassing me now.
All right. So sorry about that for a moment, but I come back. But so the I hate doing this. But so I think CSG's gonna keep it loose.
Yeah, I think they might keep some of it under wraps, the more juicy stuff, but I really hope they're a little more liberal with what they put out there, but
Yeah,
not to the point of over blowing our expectations.
I think the key is just to make sure not to have any dates. Don't connect anything to any specific patch. Just sort of like, this is what we're working on. This is what's coming out in short term, medium term, long term. These are things we're working on. It's not ready yet. And then when a patch is going into Evocati, you go, hey, this is all the things we have. If things have to get moved over to a preview channel, they say, hey, these are things we moved over to the preview channel. We're going to test those separately, and we're going to focus on this. That sort of thing, yeah. I think helps out a lot, because if you don't set up expectations for what's in a patch until the patch is actually released, I think players are going to be a little bit more okay with things slipping because they never had the expectations of that part of the patch coming in anyways. So
that's a good point, and it makes sense. Yeah.
All right.
I think I agree with you.
Okay. Oddcon asks, why would CIG lay off QA team? Don't they need more people in QA? I would need a source for what you're talking about, Oddcon, because there's lots of things that happen at CIG. One of the things that to keep in mind is the letter from the chairman. I want to say early this year, maybe late last year. They mentioned that they're moving a lot of people to the new offices, to Manchester. So they're de-emphasizing a lot of the U.S. studios. And the other thing that's happening is if it's in reference to say something like QA for specific teams, it's just when you consolidate teams. If say you're QA in LA and they're trying to move people out of LA, you're going to get axed, and it'd be easier for them to find QA in Manchester or in Montreal than it is for them to find them in than to move a QA member from LA to somewhere else. So
I actually have some experience with that. A gentleman who used to go to our bar citizen was actually a former employee of CIG, and actually was going to move to the English office. However, living here and having a child in high school, he had to pass up the job and resign because his kid is trying to graduate. I won't say who it is, anonymity, but I'm pretty sure there are similar stories in every field because it's expensive to move, especially when you have family trying to finish school or do a job or whatever.
Yeah, there's other features of that as well. But yeah, I'd have to know more about specifically like what Oddcon is trying to reference in terms of QA team, because I would take everything referenced by what's the one? There's like a gamers. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head, but it was like gamer news thing. The one
IGN or whatever.
It's not even IGN. It's a more of an independent one that I used to have a lot of respect for. But maybe it was Gamer. I can't remember the name of it, but I used to have a lot more respect for it based off of like when they first released their information. I didn't know a lot about them, and then I looked up some of their stuff. Maybe? It wasn't Kotaku. Inside Gaming. Thank you. I looked up their content. I'm like, wow, they're actually pretty good at this. So I'll take this, a little bit more seriously, because these aren't just like fly by night. This isn't Kotaku needing to make some money for ramen. But as Inside Gaming has been releasing more and more information, it's felt very clawing. It's been felt very
scathing.
No, it doesn't feel very well done. In comparing his writing from previous other articles for other games to Star Citizen, it feels a lot more personal. Like he's more personal to like his language, a lot less sort of detached and like he's done with other things. And a lot of his facts are very odd. For instance, at one point he referenced something like 100 plus people were fired from the team, and it was super quiet. And my own response is 100 people, and not a single person leaked it to a Star Citizen, like to say, for instance, the Pipeline, who was notorious for being okay with getting that sort of juicy drama.
Yeah,
not a single person did.
Something about that smells funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of. And then the latest article they did was about how upper management is changing, and they talked about Ortwin retiring, and everyone's and then as if it's like headline news like right now. It's like the community knew Ortwin retired and left. Gosh, 3-4 months ago. So, but it was acting like it just happened, and how upper management is shaking up, and it's like, no. So there's been a lot of that sort of weird discussions, and so anything that source that he publishes without a good source, like some sort of something to back him up beyond just trust me, bro, I would take with a grain of salt.
Yeah, trust me, bro, doesn't get you very far in 2024.
It should get him pretty far, because he's actually got a pretty good reputation, but since that first article, it seems like he hasn't really backed up a lot of his sources, or even used other easily accessible references, which I have known about for months that are public, to sort of shore up his arguments. It's almost as if he's trying to meet a deadline for release date for these articles, rather than actually trying to do good journalistic integrity. It feels like he started off with, this is an interesting topic, and then he's lost interest over time, but he sees the clicks and knows that it's something that people want. If he started off as, this is a topic that's important, and ends up with, I need to make some fucking money this month sort of thing, which is kind of disappointing with somebody of his caliber.
Sloppy journalism, yeah.
Yeah. So, but if the general question is why would they fire people from QA, it's almost certainly because they're trying to move people away from the US and moving them towards Manchester. That's almost 100%. So, all right. Carlston asks, do you see any non-combat starter quests for people with an Aurora? The delivery missions are missing from my point of view. Yeah, they're entirely gone, the delivery missions. No, but I think that's not intended. I think that they want to get the missions back, which is one of the reasons why they released into 4.0 preview. Do you know any like non-combat starter missions from Aurora for like starter ship that's in 4.0?
I don't think so. I mean, for an Aurora ship, yeah.
For someone who just has an Aurora.
Because all the hauling missions require bigger cargo bays, right?
Yeah, usually
even
like
smaller ones.
Yeah, they usually require. And you can technically do them. You just have to do them in over and over.
At least a Nomad. You'd have like 24. No way in Aurora.
I mean, you can do it in like pieces, but yeah,
that would get tedious.
Yeah, it would get tedious. No more investigation missions. There are, but investigation missions aren't really good starter missions because a lot of them are in caves, which are easily to get lost. I wouldn't put a new player in a cave at any time soon.
And also pounced on by not only NPCs but troublemaking players.
Because there may be people who are trying to they may stumble upon a distribution center, because a lot of those investigation missions are in distribution centers, and they just may happen to be into a unfortunate situation where that distribution center is being raided by pirate players. So someone's saying do FPS missions. The question was specifically non-combat though. Like FPS is combat. But I think outside of box missions there really isn't a lot, which is also a problem, but hopefully CIG corrects that soon.
The mention of transient jump points at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way those are going to work in Tangent is that they're going to move around, based on, I want to say, regarding this, is say you're finding temporary jump points in data you can sell.
Okay. So like exploration stuff.
Yeah, this is how it would work. It would move around in like, how do you do that? It's like in a pattern, based on probability, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I think I get what you're saying. Like the idea that it would randomly show up here and there, and that it would be
and move around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Citizen Dax, who asks, in long term, adding more star systems will add more code to the game. Does anyone else think CIG will have a problem with player side file size once we reach 1.0 and beyond? Yes and no. Because how much did Pyro actually add to the game itself in terms of file size?
20 gigs, maybe? 30?
Yeah, 20, 30 gigs, I think. Because it was already in like the 80 gig range when Pyro was added. So with 5-star systems, you're probably looking at similar. And you also got to remember that CIG is going to optimize going forward, and they're going to reuse assets.
The data a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of data compression. And remember, we're just not even on, what is it? The other server meshing. That'll compress it even further.
Yeah. So because we don't know how much of that data can also be transferred over to this hybrid service rather than just being on the player side.
Basically, the cloud will free it up from your computer.
We don't know how much that will be, because I have heard people say that like most of that stuff that's going to be in the cloud stuff won't be player based, but we're still a long way from 1.0. I also think there's going to be a lot more leeway for something like Star Citizen to be like a terabyte big compared to Call of Duty Warzone, which doesn't have a right to be a terabyte big.
Yeah.
It's not nearly the same kind of scale of Star Citizen is. So, but yeah. All right. Next question comes from William Argueta, who asks, how often do you think star systems will be added into the game now that server meshing has been added in? We talked about this a little bit before. Do you think we're going to see, how often do you think we're going to see star systems, going to 1.0 and beyond? 1 a year, 2 a year, 4 a year?
That's a good question. And I think a little bit of the idea going forward was shown at CitizenCon. Think about it. We were shown Nyx, but we weren't given any information on how far along it is. Yet we've known it's been in progress for at least 3 years.
Mm-hmm. In some form.
And Castra is technically in white box. So that's 2 of the 4 that are not playable, but still in some level of completion. And I'd be a betting man right now to say Terra has at least received some art passes, because if you look it up, you remember they showed us the art concepts for the planets.
Yeah.
That indicates they're already planning out Terra.
So yeah. And as chat's pointing out, that it was referenced as gray box. Nyx was. And CIG has said that Nyx was pretty much done. They said that a while ago, though.
Yeah.
I will go on a limb and say that CIG is probably planning 1 to 2 systems a year from now on. I wouldn't be surprised if Nyx comes out next year. In fact, I expect Nyx to come out next year, just because the hard part about systems is server meshing,
and we've overcome that hurdle.
Yeah,
pretty much.
So like
we're just working the bugs on it.
It's getting the bugs, it's optimizing it, increasing the number of players doing dynamic server meshing, which is important, but it's not important for actually adding new systems. And someone's saying, isn't Nyx practically empty unless the lore changed? It is, but they also said in the latest Lore Makers update that they said that they will change it because they don't want it to be empty. That none of the systems are going to be completely empty. They will still have some empty systems because they do think that it's important, but the actual planets will be very different. I doubt we'll see like habitable worlds in Nyx, but I do think we're going to see it's going to be slightly different than what we have now. We'll have like outposts and like we have with
distro centers, probably abandoned ones, which will be
like
a new
mines and stuff like that. But I don't think we're going to see extensive changes.
I think one of the at the most we won't see full planets added, but planets that look bare or are going to stay gas giants, they might add a moon or two to flavor it up.
Yeah,
because gas giants, by their nature, have enormous gravity wells, and they typically have moons.
Typically, yeah. At least based off of what we know with our own
solar
gas giants and our own solar system. And someone actually looked it up and said that their preview folder is 117 gigabytes. So 4.0 is 117 gigabytes. And the folder they have for 3.2, 3.2 live is 114 gigabytes. So the actual difference between 4.0 live and 3.23 live is 3 gigabytes?
It's tiny.
That's tiny. I can't believe that's real. Maybe because 3.23 added a lot of the different added a lot of those features, a lot of those beforehand, because because I remember
probably added the roots and then the tissue above it. Yeah.
There was sense. I do remember 3.2, 3.1 or 3.2, not 2.3. He said 2.4. It was 3.24.2, but I think 3.23 was like 90 gigabytes. So there's definitely CG's definitely optimizing some aspects here and there. So Odd kind of adds reasons to go there. Yeah, Nyx will have to have some reason to go there. But the biggest thing the thing that takes CIG a long time to do with systems, other than server meshing, obviously, is the landing zones. And the thing that Nyx has that other systems don't is we already have the Nyx's landing zone. It's Levski. They're adding more things to it, but
actions are another thing. And I would say,
yeah. I don't know what Citizen Dex is asking about. File size. Oh, yeah. Citizen Dex was one asked about the file size. So yeah, I think at least one system a year into 1.0, because we only have 3 more systems to go. We've got Nyx, Castra, and Terra. So I think CIG would love to see Nyx and Castra in this next year, but I don't think we're going to see Castra in until next year. And I don't think Terra.
2026.
Yeah. What's that?
Oh, you said 2026 for Castra, and maybe Terra is a stretch for end of year 2026.
I think we're probably going to see Terra. Yeah, maybe stretch for Terra 2026. Yeah, you're correct. 2026. I say next year because I'm already in the mindset of 2025. So yeah, I would say quarter 2. So somewhere between March and June of 2026 will be Castra, because that's perfectly timed with Invictus, and Castra is a perfect system to have Invictus in.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
So I was gonna say, but beyond 1.0, I think it'll be at least 1, if not 2 systems a year. Because
I'd say definitely pay more attention to the ISCs.
Yes, they'll give us a little bit more of an idea of what's going on, especially this year. All right. Next question comes from Essential Asa, who asks, do you think they'll make some missions like the one that led to the Vulture's debut? Seems like a good explorer or non-combat type gameplay. Which one was that?
I don't remember that one.
Can you kind of give us some clarifications on that, Essential Asa, of what the missions were for the Vulture's debut? Are you talking about the games on the website? Anyways, we'll skip that for right now. Trouble Baghdad asks, as long as the questions were kept. Oh, well, yeah, no, they were because I had to restart them. Essential Asa then asks, how far do you think they will go with fleshing out cities and landing zones and populating them with their own content? I'm going to cop out and say yes.
Yes. I mean, if you want a good example of a large or giant landing zone, look at what's planned for Terra.
Yeah. I think they're going for full proc gen. I wouldn't be surprised if CIG does like a hero zone, which is like a downtown area where you have all the things that they want it to. And then there'll be just a proc gen area with some connecting tissues where that are there for like player housing or random shops or, you know, events or anything else like that. Because that seems to be the way they're moving with this idea of dynamic interiors for buildings. And you can sort of see that with Orison. You notice how Orison has a bunch of different landing pads, little platforms. I think those platforms will eventually be player used.
Like properties or something?
Yeah, like properties, or they'll be used for missions and stuff like that. So, and you know, Area 18 will probably be the first real test of that because that's huge. We're talking about an entire
Area
planet.
18 currently has some stuff that's not accessible.
Yeah.
From what I understand, there's like a huge plaza or something, and like a something else. I can't remember.
Well,
it's in the old concept.
There's also no seas. There's no oceans in Area 18, which you're supposed to have.
Hardcore's going to look totally different.
So also clarified, for the Vulture, there was a MISC ship in an area that one could reach, and MISC put up a 10 million UEC bounty that Drake could prototype, which became the Vulture. So you're talking about, will CIG do missions like that lore story from the Vulture? Yeah, almost certainly. Some sort of, we kind of already have that. We had it in the past where we had some sort of investigation mission where last we saw X ship, it was disappeared in this area, go find it and then go recover the black box or tag the corpses that you find of the wreckage. I think
those have been around for a while.
Yeah, I think we'll see more stuff like that. It may have been removed from the game, but I think we'll see stuff like that in the future because that's kind of like you know, go find the missing wreck here.
Capture the hijacked 890 jump.
Yeah, that was a good one. So, all right, I'll mark that as complete. Next question comes from Red Marine, who asks, do you think single-seat fighter pilots will get the ability to shut off power to specific weapons? For example, the glaive, and be able to shut down the size 1 weapons. I think you can turn off the individual weapons now. I haven't used the new HUD a lot, the new MFDs, but yeah, sure. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's come with the new HUD changes because it frees up a lot more customizability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Total saying is that you can't do that with the new MFDs. I think it'll eventually come in there. Yeah, for sure. That's almost certainly a hold on just real quickly. That's almost certainly an engineering thing because we'll have to wait for that to come in there. So. Oops. All right.
Cool.
All right. So next question comes from Bigger, big geo grep, BIGGEORGEP. I can't. I don't know what that is. Big. I'll just say big. Big asks, will Death of a Spaceman be brutal enough to be effective when it's finally implemented? I I don't know how to respond to that question, only because I don't think Death of a Spaceman is going to be brutal. I don't think it's nearly going to be as brutal as people think it is, but I do also think it's going to be a consequence. Big George P. Okay.
It's going to be like what is that game? Elden Ring, maybe.
Mm-hmm. That was Dark Souls. Demon Souls was a big inspiration for the Death of the Spaceman in the first place.
Definitely.
And I think Chris even said he didn't want to be as hardcore as Demon Souls. And I don't play Soulsborne games, so I can't tell you if this is exactly right. I've seen it played, and I've watched other people play it and seen people talk about it. But how to put it? As far as I understand how that works, when you have you collect souls as part of the game, and if you die, all of the souls you've collected get dispersed, and you can collect those souls again if you get back to your body fast enough. But if you die again after you've collected those souls after they've already spilled once, then they're gone forever. So you can't just constantly go back and recollect it. You only have a certain number of chances. And I think that's effectively what Death of a Spaceman is going to be. It's going to be more of you have a number of chances at not having penalties applied to you, but the longer you go alive and the more you die, the more penalties will be applied. And then eventually when you die, you'll get like a tax. A big, portion of your wealth, a portion of your reputation will be removed from you. So when you create a new character, you still get all that stuff back, but at a reduced rate. So it's sort of like a small minor setback.
It's like Dead Cells too.
Dead Cells does that?
Dead Cells, when you run out of life, you literally lose your progress. Mm-hmm. Unless it's like at the end of a level or something. No, you go all the way back. All the way freaking back to the beginning of the game. And you could be like, you only get one life and it's set on hard. So yeah.
No. I don't think CIG is going to get to that to the degree where it's like breaks the player or anything like that. I think it's more of a trying to get players to value their life more, to become less suicidal, in terms of being able to just say, oh, I'm just going to run at this person naked and punch him in the face. And then when I die, I'll respawn and kind of do it again. There are other aspects that are going in it, but so it's to discourage cheese behavior and griefing behavior and more emphasize having to play the game. Right. So,
a good way about that is when you regen, as your regeneration becomes harder to do. I think I've heard this. It's supposed to become more expensive because regenerating from your DNA, it gets damaged. So in order to repair the damage, they have to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, it's not really DNA. It's more, they call it trauma echoes. So it's less of a DNA degradation and more of a PTSD. Your brain literally rejects the idea that you're still alive. Yeah. And so like if you say got your arm cut off when you died and you have a certain level of trauma echoes, when you're regened, your brain doesn't believe your arm still functions, so it believes it's gone. So even if you got regened with an arm, that arm doesn't work. So you have to get it replaced with a cybernetic arm. So yeah, it will get more expensive because when you regen, you won't just have to replace your body, you have to replace the parts of your body that had been replaced because of other issues. So it will build up in terms of consequences over time. But I don't see it being like overtly consequences. It's probably going to be more of a slight inconvenience and then a big inconvenience. But I don't see it being like a huge. A lot of people make a big deal out of it, and be both positively and negatively. I think it's going to be less of an impact than people think, but it's definitely going to be a major player in your just decision of, do I just commit backspace and go back to and restart again, or do I wait for to get rescued, sort of thing. So, all right. Next question comes from Eagle0013, who asks, any lore on the Frontier Fighters? Nope. They're pretty new. They were brought up with the latest event, and I think that's all we have. Other than there's a mention, they have a poster in the jump point about what they are. So, Oddcon asks, question, quote, new features will no longer hold up content approach will leverage the tech preview channel. So bounty hunting, base building, engineering, fire, all tech preview. What content? Content is, he even mentions it earlier in that, because you're quoting from the letter from the chairman. He's quoting, he says it earlier that it's events like Overdrive and Save Stanton. So the content that they're adding are ships, missions, mission chains, narrative stuff, those sorts of things. So they're not going to restrict the release of a new patch just because a specific feature isn't added. Which means more frequent patches, which also probably will include more frequent fixes, then
more stability.
More stability, yeah. And more things to do, rather than just brand new features.
I don't think a lot of people notice, but 4.0, though a lot of it got gutted, we got a new species thrown in it, all out of nowhere.
What, the slug?
No, the rat.
Oh yeah,
the rat was not mentioned at all.
I think it was mentioned
in any of the development stuff.
No, it was the first time I heard it mentioned was at Star Citizen Live, or Inside Star Citizen, the last Inside Star Citizen. So,
and I'm kind of glad that if that's their take of stuff. I like surprises.
Yeah, I love that sort of thing. That's something I would love to do more often.
And if chat's keeping up, I think that's our 4th species there.
Yeah, it's kind of a snuck in there. The is it aloe wrap? The aloe wrap,
which will probably get subspecies too. Yep.
And then the Maroc, the
Copian, and the 5 different versions of the Grazer.
Grazer, yeah. So Allop rat, yeah, the Allop rat is what it's called. It's basically an alopecia. It's an alopecia rat, is what it's why it's a combination. It's a portmanteau of those. All right, next question comes from Escape, who asks, question, would you please shout out my baby? Just say Rocket Strike. I've already said Rocket Strike.
Rocket Strike.
There's actually a question down below about base rating and stuff like that, and base griefing. And I think honestly, when Star Citizen gets bases, one of the things that we'll see more often is the rockets start to come in, because rockets are quite literally perfectly designed to attack bases. You know, dumb fire, point in a direction, delete anything in that area is very what rockets, in my opinion, would be good for. And you could just make them so that size 1 rockets do the same kind of damage as a size 2 missile, but they're unguided. So they're bigger warheads. They remove the guiding system from more warhead space. And so it's just smaller package, big boom. So,
and who says they're just going to be on ships?
Sure.
Like I said, the Titan suit hardpoints, you could have 2 rocket pods on the back, drop it off, sneak over a ridge, and just.
Yeah, this is copium. This is copium or hopium in my mind. But how about crew service weapons? Being able to deploy a rocket pod and then man the rocket pod and fire a rocket pod in a stable position at an enemy.
Turtles.
All right, next question comes from Stove S, who asks, what feature are you looking forward to being added in 2025? And what existing feature are you looking forward to being improved upon in 2025? So, Axis, what do you think? What are you looking for to be added, and what are you looking for to be improved upon?
Be improved. I would like salvaging to be improved a little bit.
How so?
Remember, all we have is stripping and munching at the moment, but I'm going to go on a tangent with it and say we have the Vulture and the Reclaimer. We have a small and a large cruise ship. We definitely need a middle ground to fill between the Vulture and the Reclaimer. I think it's planned at least, but
like a medium.
We definitely need some salvage improvement because look at mining. There are so many layers of mining.
Oh yeah. I know that.
I have to say, what am I looking forward to?
Yeah, right? What are you looking forward to?
Hmm.
What features are you? What do you think they'll what are you looking forward to being added in 2025?
I almost want to go out with the PvPers here and say we need some details on bounty hunting.
Yeah.
Of some sort. We need some news there. I really wish. I'm sure the boys in chat will agree with me.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a big one. Personally, I'm looking forward to being improved is missions in general.
Yeah,
because like getting dialed in. Because I think I am of the minority of the community and CIG who thinks that Elliot and his team are really good at what they do. They've just been let down by the rest of the game. The game is not to the snuff that they want to put it into. They are very talented. They're insane. They're crazy. They're wonderful. And they have a good idea of where they're going. It's just the game itself isn't ready for their ideas. So now that we have 4.0 out, I think, and them working on this new mission system, which is not fully implemented, but should be implemented by the, by I'd say like 4.1. That is, I think that is, that is what I think is going to be going forward is be really cool and being improved upon. And what am I looking for to being added? Along those same lines, monster hunting. Give me some cooperative gameplay to attack something.
Big game hunting in general, yeah.
Yeah.
Give us a reason to hunt these animals. Are we poaching or are we hunting for zoos or people who want them as pets?
Yeah.
You know?
All right. Next question comes from Essential Asa, who asks, do you think they'll bring Banu slave trade into the game, or will that just get ignored? I think CIG is going to probably steer away from that right now. I don't think they'll completely ignore it, because last night I was hanging out with Logan Plays, and we were doing a group sort of session through contested zones. And I believe it was the contested zone on Obituary. When we got to the point, or it may have been in Ruin, we got to the point where we're dealing with Xenothreat, and we got into the Xenothreat area, and it was a kitchen. And it was the interior of a hospital. And in the hospital, they had bodies, and those bodies you could see were being butchered into meat, and then that meat was being put onto barbecue.
Wow.
Yeah, there was active cannibalism going on inside the contested zone, and it's like, oh,
oh my god,
this is some Fallout level stuff. Okay, yeah, there's also deep fryers there too with oil in them. And I was like,
it's like Resident Evil Dark Lab stuff.
Yeah, so if CIG's okay with that, I don't see them steering away from the Banu slave trade stuff. I just think they need to have more tech and or be able to handle it like a little bit more gracefully. So,
well, regarding those planets you can't go to, God, what are they called? Fire Chance X. People go and capture Yosoians and those other species. Yeah, I could definitely see you being either working for the UEE policing the system or working for the poachers and capturing these aliens, these indigenous. So
I do think that stuff like that will probably, it's kind of like a bounty hunting-esque mission. I could see some missions like that being unlawful, capture this person and bring them to another person for illicit means, but yeah.
There might also be gray area ones where they need a live specimen, but you're not a bounty hunter, but you're working under the government for some reason.
Like research purposes, something like that.
Yeah.
Though I do think that whatever they do, it's going to probably require some finesse because, slavery is a thing in the real world and it happens all the time, even in
heavily frowned on.
Of course, it's heavily frowned. It's illegal in most places, but it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And it is, as a result, you need to kind of make sure you're handling it with a little bit more grace than just throwing a couple skulls on a barbecue kind of thing.
Yeah, that could get them in deep trouble.
At least you get people talking about it. But I think CIG wants to probably be a little bit more wants to have that fleshed out because we don't even have the Banu in the game yet. So like when the Banu are in game as a species that can engage in these sorts of things, I think that's probably what they're also waiting for. So, all right. Griefers Pub asks, will CIG finally cave and realize we need PvE servers / sliders after Pyro's release and backlash they faced on Spectrum? No, not at all. Absolutely not. Because at the end of the day, Star Citizen is a mixed PvPvE, and they made that very clear for the 1.0 discussion. I do not think CIG is going to cave to that. I do think that each sort of level of gameplay will have its own place. It's just people are mad that the PvP arena that is Pyro is released. And they're like, well, this is the first major release and it's all PvP related. You're not paying attention to the PvE. It's like, well, wait for Nyx. Nyx will have some of those things and Pyro will have some of those elements. It's just a matter of the servers need to be, well, the servers are okay. Just like the 30K issues need to be fixed and the reputation needs to be added a little bit more. So yeah. No.
Do I think they might have what do you call it? A training server? Maybe, but it won't be an entire solar system. Maybe a moon or a planet, but not
like an instanced, like tutorial zone, something like that. Yeah.
Definitely something like that for orgs that are huge and large enough, but it won't be anytime soon, I don't think.
What I was going to say is on top of that, I also think that generally speaking, what we're going to see is,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. It was a good thing. I was trying to, I think what we'll see is, generally speaking, me personally, I am of the persuasion of welcome to Pyro, missile to your face sort of situation. I do think there needs to be a little bit of like manipulating that, like because we don't have transient jump points, adding an armistice zone around the jump points, which would probably be a good idea. Just for now, until the transients can be put in, and when the transients can be put in, then there's at least you can remove it and be like, hey, have at it. Or, and they have better NPC protection, especially in places like Stanton, and shouldn't be able to camp it. And reputation definitely needs to be a thing more often than it is. But God, like you show up in Pyro, it's like showing up into Somalia. Like, don't expect not to get attacked. It's not exactly a safe area.
I'm the captain.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Mizo Mesoreshi Rauki01. I think I got that right. Who asks, will we see the Perseus in 4.0 or in Invictus? Well, 4.0 is not out yet, so no, we're not going to see in 4.0, but it is out, I should say, but it's not fully out, but yeah. I do think Invictus. I think 4.2, we won't see it. What do you think, Axis?
It was definitely alluded to at, what was it, CitizenCon? Mm-hmm. The silhouette of the Perseus was shown.
Yes.
And that's good because that is another large RSI ship that will be rolled out. And it also influences, Chad, even though non-RSI ships, it also influences other ship designs down the road. So that's a good thing.
Essential Asa asks two questions. First one is, When we'll be able to change homes, and 2, do you think CIG will consider 3 spawn points: home, local station, and vehicle? You can change homes right now. You spawn in wherever your last landed area was. So if you are in Bajini Point, you log out at Bajini Point. When you log back in, you're going to be at Bajini Point. Even if you landed at Bajini Point and then went off to Pyro and then got killed in Pyro and rage quit out, the next time you log in, you're going to be back at Bajini Point. You know, you're always going to be there. So the homes you can move right now. It's just your spawn location where all your stuff is. But yeah, setting your new home location, I think is going to be when they have not server meshing, base building, and or be able to purchase homes in landing zones. What do you think, Axis? Do you think they're going to change? Do you think we'll be able to change homes?
Well, if you own your own home, like, you know, like your own built-up base or even a settlement, you might have that choice on the menu. So, like, local station would be like that's local space station. Home would be the home planet. It would then be local station. And before vehicle be local location, which would be landing zone or your home residence, you know, which has a spawn bed. Vehicle is kind of an odd one. I don't know. What do you think? Vehicles seem like too much cheaty, you know?
I think it depends, because you're reading the second part of the question where the second part they asked was, do you think we'd be able to consider 3 spawn points: home, local station, and vehicle? No, I don't think so. I think you're going to have 1 spawn point, and you'll be able to set it when you first log in, and then maybe set it a little bit later with like a bed log or something like that. But you don't. Since Star Citizen kills you frequently, like even if the game was bugless, when you die, you're going to go back to a regen point, not your home. And since you can already change that, I don't know if this is really matters that much. But I think if the answer is, can we set a spot where this is going to be our home location? I think it'll be you're looking at like a base building, probably the earliest one.
Yeah.
All right. Shogun Tekken asks, question: what stage of the 600i rework do you think is complete, or when do you think it will be released? Oh God, it's not at all. It's at concept. That's the last we saw. But I mean, there's so many people who are waiting for it, so I know that's true. But yeah, it's a concept. Sabant asks, question: does the ships that have been confirmed to not release until after 1.0 change any recommendations to earn down for pledging ships? We don't have any confirmation, though. We have a list of ships, which is listed on a 1.0 panel, but those aren't necessarily confirmed to be the ships they're planning on releasing.
That's not the hard release list, no.
No. And that's more of like kind of an Inforunner's question. Me personally, maybe like the Orion, I think maybe one of those that may not release afterwards. But I don't think anyone, including the Inforunners, speaking as the high priest of the cult of the Endeavor, believes that the Endeavor was ever going to be released with 1.0. We talked about how that was a post-release feature for a long time, but
yeah.
Lady Space Patrol says we have confirmation from IAE show as per Quantum Minute from John Crew. What do we mean from the images, the list of ships from the 1.0 panel?
No, they're saying Genesis and Starliner and Endeavor post 1.0.
Yeah, Genesis, Starliner, and Endeavor. Yeah, but those three, I don't think anybody would have suggested the Starliner and the Endeavor as an earned down feature. Maybe the Genesis, but I think the biggest ones you will hear people talk about are things like the Orion, the Reclaimer,
The Kraken, maybe
the Kraken. Yeah, like the bigger ships, and then earn your way down from that. All of those I think are going to make it, but so for right now we just don't know. All right. MPCDN asks, question: is fixing a soft dead ship part? Okay, there's no punctuation. So is fixing a soft dead ship part of first drop of engineering or a later patch? I don't know. The idea, I guess, the idea being when you can tow a ship to like a location and get it fixed, even if it's soft death, or fix it with engineering. I imagine part of that is going to be engineering, but I don't think they're moving over or moving away from soft death directly until Maelstrom is in. What do you think?
Crap.
The question is basically, do you think that we're going to be able to fix soft death with engineering? With the first version of engineering?
Depending on how they do it. I mean, if the part disabled is part of engineering, like a power plant or a conduit or something, and you're repairing that, then yes, I think so.
But not like the soft dead state?
Like where the power's knocked out and you are heading toward the ground.
Yeah. I think it depends on how soft death works. If soft death is completely removed with engineering, where it's just a matter of your components, then yeah, I think that'll be there. That'll definitely be part of the fixing with engineering. But if soft death is just a status that happens in general, I don't think that's going to be fixable with 4.1. So, the whole soft death concept is super artificial. It's a stand-in for your systems being damaged. But they didn't have the systems in place for it yet, and they wanted players to get used to the idea of not fully being dead, sort of thing. But I think it matters more than just engineering. It's also Maelstrom. Those are the two things that really matter with soft death. So it'll be interesting to see when Maelstrom comes in, because it has been mentioned as already part of the build. It's already in the main branch of Star Citizen. It's just we haven't heard any updates since then. So. Okay. We're getting through these, but we still got a lot of questions left, and we've been streaming for about an hour and 30 minutes. So
we're doing actually pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a stop to the questions.
Thank you.
Because we're at that point. So like I said, this is gonna be a little slower, but we still have some more to get through. Cessnator asks, will the vending machines ever work? Yes. Mm-hmm. Fun fact, CIG was actually getting them to work 2 years ago.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my.
If I actually think part of 3.0's original design was to get them to work, because they actually had a mission which was designed for you to go around and repair vending machines. It feels like a joke, a Red Dwarf reference, but it's still like fixing vending machines it was before we had the new stations. It was the old rest stops instead of the stations. Those old stations were like kind of like the
and it got lost in translation. Bummer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
if they get that working again, that opens up repair jobs for the companies that own those stations. Machines.
Yeah.
Because who here has ever seen a Coke machine broke down and Coca-Cola's had to send out a technician to repair the machine,
which would include reputation. So
exactly.
I think soon-ish. I think one of the things that's one of those things that's such a minor thing, the vending machines being working, that it's one of those. It'll probably take a dev or two, a couple of weeks to get it done. But do you want to have those devs working on a vending machine, which may break and have other problems they have to fix down the road, or getting bounty hunting to work? So it's just more of an allocation of resources process, but I think it will work at some point. Citizen Ninja asks, do you think we'll get an ArcCorp rework with low flying before 1.0? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
ArcCorp needs a massive overhaul, and I see that being done before even Terra is released. Because I imagine any city generation technology they want to do, which they're going to have to do with Terra if they want to keep all those landing zones in place, and if they want to do what I think they're going to do, which is try to make landing zones more like cities rather than landing zones, they're going to need new proc gen technology for cityscapes. So, the best test of that would be our Area 18 or our Corp in general. So, all right. Next questions come from Grex again, who asks, when do you think we will get the option for different hangar types for 1.0, after, before, i.e. the Revel and York hangar? That's a good question. I don't know if that'll continue because they still have it in part of the thing where you get different access, different hangars. From what I remember, the idea behind that was at some point you're going to have to put your ship somewhere. So when you get into the game, you have to allocate where your ships are going to go. Yeah. You won't just be able to say, hey, I would like my ship here at randomly. It's going to you're going to have to pre-place them at the beginning of your first login with 1.0.
Right.
And I believe they've said that each of those hangars represents a free hangar in a specific location. Because the hangars are now just sort of everywhere, those hangars will be placed where they can be accessed. Like right now, there is no Revel and York hangar, but we do have the AeroView hangar and the basic hangar. I can't remember the name of that one, but
AeroView, let me see. AeroView Executive is in game, technically. Yes. 4.0.
Yes.
But you have to go through some steps for it. The official executive hangar is still currently missing.
Yes. They're like the bigger ones. And I think we'll see those with like Terra and stuff. So I think the way that'll be translated is if you have, say, a Revel and York hangar, you can place that hangar in Terra and you can put it there. But so you'll have a free hangar there where you don't have to pay the fees for it. And an AeroView hangar, right? You can go to, I believe, Orison or New Babbage. You can put them there. So I think it really depends on those sorts of things.
The asteroid hangars that everybody's been wanting will probably be factionally out.
Yes.
Like people like the, what are they called? The Moraine in Nyx. They have asteroid bases. So they may have, if you have a strong reputation with them or do business with them, they may give you an asteroid hangar as a token of their appreciation.
I could see asteroid hangars ending up being in places like a lot of different places too, like even in the Air and Halo, possibly. So
who's this guy?
I don't know what Warhead's talking about, but
I have no idea who he is.
All right. Could you be more specific on what he's talking about, War, so we can address what you're talking about? Mr. Chewy Numnums asks, question, when do you think we'll see a test version of crafting / base building? When do you think we're going to see the first version of crafting / base building? I mean, I think the question is more like preview channel. When do you think that's going to happen?
Oh, hopefully soon.
Any specific dates you think?
What's that?
Any specific?
I don't know about this year, but maybe next year.
Maybe next year. I think this summer would be my guess. So 2025, summer 2025. So post 4.2, pre 4.3. I think that's when we'll see that. Hopefully, because CIG seems to let summer just not exist for it. So
that's kind of why I said next year, because things drift.
Yeah. You're saying 2025 or 2026?
Yeah, probably 2025, probably Q3. If it drifts, it'll be Q1, 2026.
Okay. Chris wrote that they want to focus on stability, so my guess is summer 2025 will be fixed mission system. We'll see. Okay. Grievous Pub asks, how will CIG deal with base griefing when it's implemented? They've already talked about that. It's going to be locked to a specific instance. So like if you have a base built in the Asia servers, it'll be in all of the servers, but only in the server that was built can you access it. And even then, you can't access it if it's protected by the UE. Only the players who will invite you in will be able to let you access it. If it's fully protected, and if it's not fully protected, then you'll have to like beat down the shields and get in, stuff like that. And yeah, that seems to be, as Dell's pointing out, it seems to be pointing towards the idea that CIG is going to region lock, meaning your player is going to be restricted to a specific region. So kind of like servers in WoW, where once you've got your player logged into, say, the North American servers, you won't be able to carry that character over to an Asia server, Australia server, or EU server. But yeah. Base griefing, lol. It's like people say all PvP is griefing. Can't wait for people to complain that because their base was attacked, they're being griefed. I don't know. One of the things that I dislike about Rust is offline, and like Minecraft is offline raiding. Offline raiding sucks. It's not fun gameplay. It's never engaging. And I would consider it a form of griefing because people could just do it and just say, fuck you. And it doesn't encourage players to engage in the gameplay. It's encouraging players to use the realities of life to fuck up with somebody else over to get what they want to. And that's what I mean. The Perseus outed Invictus and changing home location. A couple of other things too. Theory crafting at best. Yes. That's what this is, Warhead. We're giving our opinions. Perseus, I said Perseus and Invictus too, based off of what CIG has said, because they did show off the silhouette of the Perseus in the Citizen Con announcement. Changing base home location, we really don't know, but it doesn't really matter, and a couple of other things too. I don't know what the other couple of other things are, but yeah. Are you new here, Warhead? Because this is what we do a lot with these sorts of things. None of us are know 100% what's going on. So
it's basically a guessing game.
Yeah. And unless you're CIG themselves, no one knows. And that's the whole point. All right. Stick asks question. As a solo player, keep the Santok Yai or new Mirai ship? That's a personal preference. I couldn't tell you because I don't know the Santok Yai very well. I don't know what the prices are. Are the Santok Yai and the Mirai Guardian the same price?
They're roughly around the same price. Oh, hold on. Let me find out. I can find out really quick.
Okay. Star Citizen isn't Rust in space. In my opinion.
Santok Yai is $240. And what about the base
Guardian?
Guardian.
I think it's the same price, isn't it?
Is it the same price? Let's find out.
I think so.
I think you're right. Oh, it's within $10, but yeah. Honestly, the Guardian's got heavier armor and bigger weapons.
It's got a bed. It's got living area. It really depends on what you want, but the Guardian is going to be heavy versus the Santok Yai, which is medium.
More durability.
Yeah. I personally, I would choose the Guardian over the Santok Yai if I was looking for combat stuff. But if those are the two you're looking at, but it's funny you said that, Liana, because you missed the earlier conversations. Because CIG has literally said that Star Citizen is Rust in space recently, like yesterday or this morning. It was referenced. Star Citizen was referenced like Rust. So that's why I was saying it was funny. Today, recently. So, I don't think it was in reference to those sorts of things, but there definitely is something they have to bring up there. It's probably more like reference in terms of the freedom of being able to do things. There's no game limitations in terms of what you can do. They don't want to limit your ability to steal someone's ship, punch someone in the face, or negotiate with them. They don't want to like arbitrarily prevent people from stealing other ships and stuff like that. So, it's not like Rust yet, but they can easily go in that direction. It's got some similarities to Rust already, but like I said, there was a confirmation from a dev that said that Richard Tyre was using Rust as an example as something they wanted to achieve with Star Citizen. So, Guardian's just better. My Sentech AI turned into one. Yeah. So if you're looking for that sort of thing, go for it. MPCDN asks, question, can CIG fix the murder hobo pyro? Yes. Reputation.
Yeah.
If you had reputation implemented the way that CIG wants to, then if you attacked a player who has good reputation with one of the factions, then you will get bad reputation with the faction that they were aligned with. So let's just say you're a miner, you've done some work for the Citizens of Prosperity, and someone attacks you. Well, now because you've been attacked by that person now has negative reputation with the Citizens of Prosperity, and though Citizens of Prosperity may even show up if you're in danger to try and help you out, or of some kind of way, shape, or form. At the end of the day, though, welcome to Pyro. Pyro is supposed to be lawless. It's supposed to have more risk and
a lot more dangerous.
Yeah. So even that sort of stuff that, like I just mentioned right now, are things to discourage players from doing those activities, but not prevent them. You're always going to have to deal with people who just want to see the world burn and just fuck people up. So,
that's just a taste of some of the other systems too. Just imagine how Spider's going to be.
Exactly. Or Cathcart. Yeah. So. All right. Griefers Pub asks, question, are you ready for when CIG announces a new LTI wipe? LTI wipe? What the fuck are you talking about?
I have no idea. I've never heard that.
I don't know what you're talking about. Could you like explain what LTI wipe is? M. Diego asks, question, regarding the Zeus Marky Mark, which is the Zeus MR, interdiction and EMP. Do you think they will only be accessible through multi-crew? No, I don't think it'll be only accessible through multi-crew. I just think that the Marky Mark is big enough that you're going to want somebody to manage your heat and your power. So it's not going to be a situation where you could just activate these, quantum snares and stuff like that, or EMP, and then just set it and forget it, because you're going to have power spikes and power things, and things are going to go on, that kind of stuff, Yeah, and your turret. So, it's probably going to be that sort of thing. LTI is still a thing. They just clarified what it means versus in-game purchase insurance and warranty. Yeah, I don't know what Reaper's Pub's talking about when they're talking about this sort of thing. So, M. Diego asks, or asked that one. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. Okay. Locke Austri asks, question, between mining, salvage, and bounty hunting, what profession do you think will get a version 2 rework first? And what could it be next year? What do you think, Access? Between salvage, mining, and bounty hunting, which is going to get a version 2 overhaul first?
I don't think bounty hunting will. Well, we could be surprised.
We could be.
But mining and salvage are more likely. But salvage, I agree with Dell. Salvage.
Yeah. I think salvage is probably more likely because it's got so many of the pieces in there. Mining is already pretty well established. I don't see we're going to see very many things. The big changes they've already kind of mentioned with it, which is region-specific nodes. So titanium is going to be found in this biome, in this location, versus sort of what we've seen in the past. But bounty hunting is so far away. Like, CIG has stopped talking about bounty hunting version 2 for months. They've only half mentioned it here and there. Freaking hacking hasn't been brought up in a year. So salvage and mining are more likely, and I agree, salvage, and probably sooner than later.
Probably. Might even be Q1.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that CIG has left things completely up in the open. So we don't really know anything beyond base building and monster hunting, which are confirmed to be coming in the next 18 months or 16 months now. Like that's between 2025 and 2026. So it's like, wow. Okay. Actually, it's refining that's going to get reworked. I don't see much change in salvage or mining. Well, salvage needs to get overhauled because of Maelstrom. But refining doesn't need to get reworked. Refining needs to be added. They showed the handcuff. They showed the handcuffs in CitizenCon of 2022, over a year ago. 10 to 16 months, yeah. All right. Top 5 rework / gold standard passes for ships that you want to happen next. So what are the 5 rework ships you want next? I go first if you need time.
Go ahead. Give me your first, Paul.
Okay. Freelancer. The Connie interior. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. The Caterpillar.
Mm-hmm.
Interior, mostly. There's a newer one, which is sort of like that.
Mercury Star Runner.
The Star Runner, yes. I think that's another one. And the Reclaimer. Those are the 5 ones that I want. What do you think?
For me, in terms of upcoming stuff, it'd be the Mustang and the Aurora series.
Okay,
but
yeah.
maybe the
Good
Avenger
points.
Titan.
Good points. All good points. Especially since those are huge importance because they're starter ships. So
Exactly. And the Avenger Titan is going to be modular, so you're going to have to figure out components on that.
Yeah.
And the Aurora and the Mustang.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
those are those 3. And for the larger ships, let's see, definitely the MSR. And I want to say the Argo MPUV series.
Yeah, it needs
their modularity.
It needs modularity added to it. Yeah. All right. Okay, so Warhead asked the question. I'm confused by Axis considering a valid source of information or just someone that's heavily theory crafts at the bases. Perseus by Invictus and home is where base is. The home with bases is just more of a theory crafting. This was a question from Warhead. Perseus by Invictus, that was simple. Did you see the silhouette of the end of CitizenCon? CAG showed off the Perseus, and the Perseus by Invictus is a easy give because Invictus is in fact a military themed event, and they have done that in the past where they had military themed ships specifically for Invictus. They held them off specifically for Invictus, and we know that multiples of the ships that they showed off in the silhouette form are already in production, including the Ironclad. So the idea that the Perseus might be released, because we know it's planned to be released in the next 12 months, that would be released around the military themed event, which is 7 months away, isn't too hard to go, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So
another one that was subtly jabbed at in the same thing was the Kraken, because the Ironclad leads to the Kraken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people missed that little, what was it?
The show
preview during the Knicks trailer.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me that it's in some form of production. So yeah. Let's go on to the next question. Renamon McDonough asks, do you think the next big thing on the back end is either fixed or introduced to... Okay, let me figure this out. Do you think the next big thing on the back end to be either fixed or introduced will come in a 4.x patch or a 5.0 patch? There will never be a 5.0 patch. We will never see 5.0. We're going to go from 4.0 to 1.0. 4.0 alpha to 1.0 release. And there will be
1.0 pretty much. And then they'll probably do a 2.0 as things change. Yeah. Down the road.
There may be a 5.0 live at some point in 20 years, but it depends on what's going on.
What we're in right now is alpha, in stage alpha.
Yeah.
I think either you or Tomato said it best that this, once we get into 4.0, the patches are going to be a lot larger and a lot more development driven. So we're going to move from just little piecemeal patches of 3.0 and before to building up to 1.0 and the actual release of the game type patches.
Mm-hmm. So we're just skipping beta. I think at most CIG will do is they'll reach the point where 1.0 is done feature complete, and they'll just keep it as they'll fix patches. And we might see a beta, but CIG won't call it beta. They'll just say, yeah, this is we're gonna wait until it's ready for 1.0. And then when 1.0 is good to go, when they feel like it's good to go for 1.0 and no more wipes, they'll go and say it's released. 1.0 live preview, something like that. Yeah. Where they'll have a 1.0 out, but it will still be like effectively all of the things that will be in 1.0 will be released, but they're not going to release it directly, if that makes sense. I don't see them doing a full beta, but 1.0 is effectively beta. Even though it's live release, it's going to effectively be beta. I don't like the idea of what they said anyways, because I there's a long history about I don't like how CIG couches it as beta or couches it as a release because they're going to get a lot of pushback from it from the older backers, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Call Me Teach asks, do you think Death of a Spaceman is still going to be a thing, or do you think the vocal minority will have strong enough voice to change CIG's mind about including it? That's a good end question. Do you think CIG is going to remove Death of a Spaceman access?
Why not? I think they're going to modify it a bit. They already have kind of the vision or the scope of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it came to be that they were inspired by whatever game that they were, what was it, Dark Souls, you were saying?
Yeah,
and they didn't want that kind of level of difficulty or rage smashing controllers and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not going to be like that. No.
I agree. I don't think they're getting rid of Death of Spaceman. I think anybody who thinks that Death of Spaceman is going away, most of the people I've talked to about it, they say it just doesn't make any sense with the game that CIG is making. And I disagree, because I think a lot of people don't visually see or don't really understand what a hard health bar is. You will effectively have two health bars. You will have a soft health bar and a hard health bar. And if I remember correctly, this has been a long time since I played it, but Life is Feudal had this system where you had a hard health and a soft health bar. So which meant that you could get attacked and hit in game. And when you got attacked and hit in game, your soft health would go down. And eventually you would get knocked out when your soft health hit 0. But over time, your hard health would regenerate, or your hard health would be knocked down, but you would get back up and regenerate over time. So you would still be able, you'd basically be killed, but you wouldn't be dead, but because your hard health would be going down. You can think of this like soft health is kind of like stamina, and hard health being like your life essence. And so I believe that the hard health system is going to be very, very what they call the imprint viability score, IVS. IVS is going to be very, very lenient. I can imagine people getting incinerated by a railgun and barely touching that IVS score. Because CIG doesn't want it to be super punishing, but they do want it to have consequences when you decide to just do that. I don't see it changing much beyond getting more depth beyond, like, things like there's no reason to get cybernetics or enhancements or anything like that for your limbs unless there's a reason to do so. There might be some gameplay aspects like advantages, disadvantages, but there's no reason to develop an entire system just for an optional advantage, disadvantage when they could be doing other things. I think that alone shows that the CIG is definitely moving towards Death of a Spaceman. So, but what's the goal with a hard health bar? It punishes long-term players. Yeah, it punishes players who are like effectively doing nothing but trying to like bum rush. It makes your actions have consequences. And CIGZ even talked about the idea of having your IVS score being refilled. So you can refill that hard health bar by doing certain actions, maybe certain missions, working for certain companies. So, yeah. Death needs to be a deterrent to backspacing your ship when a pirate. Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't just be able to just go and die. So, I heard somewhere said that somewhere that the time since the last regeneration would impact time since your last regeneration IPS. Yes, there'll be. I almost guarantee you that CIG will have things like distance from how long it's been since you've imprinted, distance from your imprint, those sorts of things will impact your IVS. So yeah. Okay. If you can refill it, that's fine. I don't imagine you can refill it all the way, but it's going to require players to actually participate and do something to refill that bar. So. Consequences are fine, but if I spent a year, getting my faction rep to one of these factions and I lose all of that because I die too much, I'll probably play another game. Again, I think what you're misunderstanding die too much versus what's actually going to happen. I don't think you're going to be able to die too much. I think you'll actively have to kill yourself. Like you'll have to be doing some really stupid things, and you'll have to do it so frequently that you are the reason why it happens. Like yeeting yourself at an enemy that is going to kill you repeatedly and not stopping. Letting yourself get what is the term that kids are using these days? Oh gosh. Maybe? No. There's a term that my kids use. I teach like high school. That's kind of like tilted.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name. I can't
remember the name of it, but like they used to, I've seen these kids say it like that, like cooked, not cooked. Cooked is a different terminology, but yeah, basically letting yourself get so mad that you're constantly throwing yourself at something and you just eventually you end up with it, not ratioed. It's a newer term. I've seen it brought up a little bit. So yeah. So yeah, I
ratioed. There it is.
Not ratioed. It's not ratioed. And you're also not going to lose all your rep. You're going to lose a part of your rep. You'll lose like a portion of your rep because you're not the same person. Tilted is a poker term. I always remember it from being pinball. But yeah. So the short answer is I don't think they're going to change Death of a Spaceman. I think what they're going to do is refine it, figure out more details of what's going on. So, thank you all for hanging out with us and watching. This is a 2-hour question and answer stream. To be fair, we went a little bit further than we would normally, but at the same time, this is the only thing we do. In the future, like I said, I'm going to we'll figure out a way to get people to call in and ask questions. The idea being sort of like get a state of the game, would people, if people want these sorts of things. And no, the term wasn't malding. It was something entirely different that was similar to cooked. But
tilted, maybe?
It wasn't tilted because I said tilted. So, but yeah, I'll have to mention in the comments when I figure it out. But thank you for watching. Thank you for Axis for coming on and joining us for this year-end Q&A. This is the last stream of 2024. So season 8 of Captain's Table is over after this. Season 9 will start in January. And I'll let you know right now that season 9 is not going to be happening next Saturday. So the January the 4th, it will probably start on January the 11th. Because my birthday is on the 7th of January. So I'll be
happy birthday.
Thank you. I'll be spending that time with family and I'll do some streams and stuff like that. That 4th will probably be a partnerversary stream as well, because I do have my partnerversary, which is when I became a Twitch partner in 2016. So I'm almost a 9-year partner. So, wow. Yeah. So, that's a season a year. Yeah, I've been making seasons a year because I sort of correspond with that, generally speaking. Make sure to check out Axis 0096. And if you did enjoy this, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to the Captain's Table podcast on YouTube to see these when they go up. And hit the bell icon to be notified of the release. Make sure you follow us live on twitch.tv/theastropub, youtube.com/theastropub live if you want to watch these live and join chat. We do this on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Would love to have you come on and answer these questions, kind of talk. And thank you for watching. Have a happy new year. Hope you had a good holidays and happy new year. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.